Welcome back to the R2F Sports channel. In this video, we will be going over my Premier League rankings for the transfer deadline day. Let's get right into it. In 20th, I've gone with Watford. Watford didn't really do anything to impress me. They lost one of their best midfielders of last season and Will Hughes to their rival of Crystal Palace. As well, I don't think the transfers they brought in is enough or is fitting that much. They did bring in Emmanuel Dennis, who looks all right, but there has been a lot of concerns about his work effort and work rate that he's willing to put in. He gets frustrated really easily. Just to summarize it, they did bring in a guy named Luza, and if you say it in a Boston accent, it sounds like loser. So I think that's just the way to summarize the transfer window. I don't think it was very strong, and I think it's deserving of this 20th spot. Over to 19th place, we have Southampton. Southampton, I think, had a absolutely terrible window, which is very deserving of one of these bottom relegation spots for the transfer windows. They lost Danny Ings, who was their proven goal scorer, who was get them out of a lot of tough situations. They lost Yannick Vestergaard, very strong center back. So I think they're going to definitely struggle throughout this year because of those two losses. They did manage to bring in Adam Armstrong, who did score in his debut game, but he's looked like he hasn't really done too much the last couple of games. They also, I feel like they wasted money on the transfer of Perot. I think it was definitely a waste of money, especially because they moved Kyle Walker-Peters over to left back because they did bring in Livramento, who looks really solid, but I think they definitely wasted money in that deal. Over to 18th place, we have Wolves. Wolves had kind of an interesting window. I think it was a lot of their fans were kind of disappointed with what occurred in this window. They did bring in Trincao and Hwang Hee-chan on loan, as well as bringing in Ait Nori and Jose Sa as a replacement for Patricio. But I think a lot of Wolves fans are very disappointed with this window. I don't think they did quite enough to have them go further up the table. I think they will struggle this year, even though the first three games they do look promising, but they do need to get a goal in. In 17th place, I've gone Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool had a very good window at all, only making one transfer and one transfer out. But that one transfer out was a very crucial player in Gini Wijnaldum. Wijnaldum was very quality for them, and I'm surprised they didn't try to get a replacement player for him. Although Thiago can come in and play even more now, but I think that transfer is not the best for them. A transfer in, they had Konate coming into the team. Konate is a very solid player from RB Leipzig, but with Van Dijk coming healthy, Matip coming healthy, Joe Gomez probably on track soon, and they just re-signed Nat Phillips. I think this was kind of a useless transfer for them overall, and I think they should have invested money in other positions. Over to 16th place, we have Newcastle United. I don't think Newcastle did that much, but I think they did just enough to warn them above these other four teams. One player that they did bring in was Joe Willock, and this is the only player that they brought in. They didn't lose anyone, though, but I think this Joe Willock signing will prove crucial to them. He had a really good end of the season, earning Player of the Month. I did think they would bring him back in. I didn't think they would actually buy him, though, but this is a great buy for them. But I don't think it's better than any of the rest of the teams that are on this list. Over to 15th place, we have Everton. Everton, I know a lot of their fans are concerned with this year because of Rafa Benitez coming in, but I don't think Everton fans should fear that much, especially after his first three games. And James Rodriguez hasn't even played yet. They did have, I think they actually had really good business on free transfers. They brought in Andrews Townsend of Crystal Palace. So far this season, he's had 2 assists and a goal so far, I think. And he already looks like he could be a future captain for them, just based on the first couple of games. He's a very good leader for them so far, and I think he was a great signing. They signed Damari Gray for just $2 million or something like that. Very cheap, and he scored 2 goals already too, and is in the running for Player of the Month. So I think he was a great signing by Everton. And as well, they loaned out Moise Kean for like $8 million to Juventus. So I think Everton had some really good business despite not really doing too much at all. Over to 14th, I've placed Burnley here. Burnley haven't done that much. They did bring in a couple good transfers. The most notable one being Maxwell Cornet. Although you know it's trouble when he's pointing to the badge. He's not pointing to the badge, he's pointing to the Umbro logo. So I think that's really funny, something that occurred. But I think it is a good transfer for them. They finally bring in a player that's not English, so that should definitely be interesting. Over to 13th place, I've put West Ham here. West Ham had kind of an interesting window. They didn't really lose anyone besides Felipe Anderson, which he's kind of the reason why I placed them in this range, because they let him go for $3 million despite signing him for like $42 million. So I think that's why I've kind of placed them lower, even though they did do some really good business. I don't like the signing of Vlasic for like $30 million. I think that's definitely overpaid for someone who's unproven in any league. He's only played in the Russian league. Kurt Zuma, I think, is a really good signing. Did they overpay for him? Maybe a little, but he's still a quality center back. Alphonse Areola, great season at Fulham last year, on loan at PSG. He was good. They'll sign Krul as well. He's another Czech Republic player, very underrated. I think he can do bits for them this season. And in 12th, we have Brentford. Brentford, I think they had a really strong transfer window, actually. Managed to hold on to Ivan Toney, which there was interest from clubs like Arsenal and other top English teams. They managed to hold on to them while also buy a center back in Ayer and a center mid in Onyeka. So I think they had a really strong window. Not too much to say about them, and I think 12th is the right spot for them. Into 11th, I put Brighton here. Brighton had kind of an interesting window. I don't think they addressed the right problems, though. They did sign Cucurella and Mwepu, who I think both of them are really quality signings. I think they signed the wrong Zambian from RB Salzburg, though. I think Patson Daka is definitely the better of the two. But he is nonetheless a good player, and I think they did have a decent window. Overall, I think Brighton fans are kind of happy, but I think they should definitely address their issue with the forward, which I think they let Edouard get away from them to their rivals Crystal Palace, so I think that was a very dumb move by them. In the 10th place, this might be a surprise to a lot of people. I put Arsenal here. I think this just proves that you can spend a lot of money and it can go to absolutely nowhere. Ben White and Tomiyasu, two very expensive signings for them. Ben White definitely overpaid for him. I don't think he's worth more than $35 million. Tomiyasu, they paid like $25 million for him. Very expensive. I don't think he's worth quite that much, but we'll see how he does for them. He did look very good in the Serie A league. They also signed Ramsdale, who, unlucky for Arsenal fans, has been on the last two teams he's been on. They've gotten relegated, so maybe his record will improve. Arsenal look favorites for relegation right now. They also brought in Odegaard and Lokonga, so they addressed their issue in the midfield. I don't know if their midfielders are still strong enough. Lokonga was kind of expensive. Odegaard they spent $35 million on. So I don't think they delegated their money in the right places, if that makes sense to you. Yeah, Arsenal overall, I was kind of disappointed with how much money they spent and who they spent it on specifically. In the 9th, I put Tottenham here. Tottenham, I think, had a really solid window overall. Getting Romero from Juventus, I think he had a quality season on Atalanta. So I think he was a really good sign for them, although he hasn't played yet. And then they also brought in Gil and Emerson from Barcelona. Barcelona didn't really want Emerson because they couldn't pay him because they're still going through that financial struggle. But Emerson was really good on Real Betis, so I think he'll slot in easily for Tanganga in that right back position. So I think Tottenham had a very good window overall for them. In the 8th, we have Manchester City. Manchester City didn't really do too much, although they did bring in one of their guys that they were looking for, in Jack Grealish. It was a $100 million transfer, but I think they definitely spent the money well. City, they could spend whatever they want, honestly. It's crazy. I think they did a good thing in not getting Harry Kane. $130 million for a forward. I think absurd money. As well, they didn't get Ronaldo, which is a little disappointing for them, but I don't think they're ever going to get Ronaldo just based on Sir Alex Ferguson. Interesting window for City. That's all that really happened for them. No one really went out, so just overall kind of mediocre, but still a good window. In the 7th, this is where things kind of heat up. I've decided to place Leeds United here. Leeds had a really good window, actually. Last minute bringing in Dan James from Manchester United, and Leeds were a team who were actually looking to bring in Dan James for a while. So Dan James gets that move over to Leeds. I think he'll start their first game he's there. They did get Jack Harrison from Manchester City on a full, so I think that was also a very quality signing for them. As well, at left back, they brought in Junior Firpo. So I think those three players overall just proven to boost the team. I know they've struggled in their first 3 games so far, but I think these signings will definitely improve them. In the 6th, I placed Norwich City here. I think Norwich City had a very underrated transfer window. They did lose Emi Buendia, but I think they overall replaced him with a lot of good quality signings. Norwich normally doesn't make many signings when they come into the Premier League, but they did manage to sign Kabak, who has experience at Liverpool. They signed two players from Werder Bremen in Rashica and Sargent, who I think were really quality signings for them, both for pretty cheap as well. I think both for under 10 mil each. And then they also got Billy Gilmore on loan from Chelsea. Norwich had a great window. I still think they're going to get relegated, but I think they did have a good window overall. In the fifth, I put Chelsea here. Chelsea had a really good window. They got a lot of money from outgoings, including Tammy Abraham. Tammy Abraham's looked really good so far at Roma, but the same could be said about Lukaku, who they brought in. They also let Kurt Zouma, Tomori, Gay go all for over 20 mil. So I think they made a lot of good money this window, especially for the money that they brought in for Lukaku. 115 mil is a lot of money, but I think it was a very good signing for them. They did need a new forward after what the mess was that was Timo Werner at that striker position. So I think it was a good signing for them. They also brought Saul on loan from Atletico Madrid. I think that was a really good signing for them. And I don't know how much he's going to play because of their depth in the midfield position. In fourth, I put Leicester City here. Leicester, I think, definitely had one of the best windows to start the year. They brought in Daka really early. They brought in Soumare really early. They brought in Bertrand really early. So they got rid of their business super early in the window. I think those three signings are really good. Daka's a pretty good forward for RB Salzburg. Had a great season there last year. As well, they also brought in the champions of France, their best center mid in Soumare. Soumare is really good. Could definitely slot in the defensive mid position. I think they were looking as a potential replacement for Ndidi in case he would go to Man U or somewhere else. But even though they kept him, I still think Soumare is a great signing. They also brought in Yannick Vestergaard, who I think will eventually start over Amartey. So he was a really good signing. They brought in Lookman on loan from RB Leipzig, so they had two Red Bull transfers. Lookman is a really good winger who I think will definitely eventually play for them. Overall, Leicester City had a really strong window. We're now into our top three teams. In third, I put Aston Villa here. Aston Villa, they did get 100 million for Grealish. They did lose their best player, their captain, the man who no one ever thought would leave there. But with that money, they did spend it really wisely. Although they were looking to keep Grealish with the amount of money they did spend. They brought in Emi Buendia, who had a great season at Norwich last year. I think he's going to be quality for them. They brought in Danny Ings, who's already scored 2 goals. So I think that alone has proven their window to be worth it. They brought in Leon Bailey, who has been injured so far this season, but I think he'll come out and have a really good year for them. Now in the top two, in second place, I've gone with Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace, you can look at the way you want. They let 13 people go. They lost their coach of 4 years in Roy Hodgson. But I think they had a very positive window. They brought in their third choice coach in Patrick Vieira, but I think he has proven that he's not a Frank de Boer and that he could actually have a really good season with Crystal Palace. He has a really strong pool of players. They've managed to bring in Mark Gui and Joachim Andersen, both very quality center backs, one of the best player in the championship last year in terms of defending, and they brought in Fulham's best player who immediately was given the captain's armband. So they had really good defensive signings. They brought in Will Hughes, who's a really good defensive mid, one of the best players from Watford. They brought in Conor Gallagher on loan, who scored 2 goals last game. He was a really good signing. They brought in a new striker, Odsonne Edouard, who could really help them go forward. The Palace kind of struggled in goals recently, so I think he's a player that could definitely change that. And to replace Eze, because he's out for like 3-4 more months with that Achilles injury, they brought in Michael Olise, who can also play right wing for them. So I think overall, just those signings coming in, all they got rid of was a bunch of dead weight who didn't play for them, were just eating up wages. I think Palace definitely had a top window. If not for Manchester United signing the players that they did, they'd definitely be number one in this. Which just moves into number one so smoothly. We have Manchester United. How could you not put them number one? They signed Jadon Sancho, who they've been looking at. They were looking at for him for 100 million last window. Managed to get him for I think 85 million. They brought in Rafael Varane for 36 million, which is an absolute steal looking at Ben White prices. And then as well, they brought in their man, one of their best players of all time, and Cristiano Ronaldo. I think this definitely puts them as one of the top 3 teams in terms of title favorites now. And even for Champions League, they have a really easy group there. So I think they brought in great players. I think they definitely have a chance in the Premier League and Champions League. Maybe even go for a treble this year or next year, who knows. But overall, I think Manchester United definitely had a strong window. Overall, these have been my transfer thoughts of the 20 teams this season. As always, leave a comment on your thoughts on my rankings, where you would switch any team. As always, subscribe to the channel. I'm looking to grow, so don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you guys next time.